Hey, it's Monday, November 4th, 2019. Almost didn't get that out. This is the Pro and Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show again. I got hundreds of these under my belt, a few hundred more to go before the election in 2020. So tonight, wanted to talk about two things. One, just wanted to touch upon a little bit of I was talking about the division in the last show, and just an illustration of one of the points where people are just so angry they're not even listening to each other anymore. There's just fury, and we've got to figure out a way. Again, neighbors, friends, coworkers, or whatever, you really are a lot closer than you might think. But you got to at least take the time to listen to each other, and this thing of where we just are not just unwilling to talk about the premise from which you come from. The perception that you have, and what causes you to have that perception, and to share that, to have that common ground. It's mind-boggling. And then the second thing, there's one of the headlines is that today, November 4th, is actually the first day, according to the Paris Climate Change Treaty, that we can start exiting the treaty. And it's a year-long process. So we have to reaffirm, I think, if I understand it correctly, we have to reaffirm and that we do indeed want to exit the treaty over the next year. So I want to talk about climate change a little bit. So the first thing, though, just to show you, so this is a little snippet from CNN. And they have 10 different people here, and so 4 of them have declared themselves as Republicans, and 4 of them as Democrats, and 2 of them as independents, which is more or less roughly the makeup of the country on the whole. And then they're talking about Mr. Trump, of course, and whether or not they're leaning toward voting for him again if they did, or changing their mind or whatever. And I just want to play this one little segment. So this one particular woman who's a Republican, and she is talking, and she's like, I'm definitely going to vote for him again. I'm going to go out there and try to recruit people to vote for him. And I just want you to listen to the anger here. So let me play this. Maybe this will flip over. And let me just play this one little tiny section. Just listen to her voice and the anger in it, because she's just so, angry. And I guess she feels like people aren't listening to her. And that could very well be true in the environment that we're in. And this is, we're failing ourselves. We're failing each other by doing this. So here, listen.
The way I'm being treated right now is a perfect example of why I will vote for Donald Trump, because my voice matters, and I won't be talked over.
And with the evidence we have right now.
Okay. So she's, this is the thing, we just are, we are just refusing, and it comes down to, folks, just as I said in the previous show, division. There are wealthy, powerful people who are intentionally driving this agenda. They're intentionally trying to keep you emotional, inflamed, angry, and frustrated, because they know at least they have your vote on their side. And so these, again, wealthy, powerful individuals, running the political parties, they've taken 40% of us and kind of pulled us over to one side, and another 40% pulled us over on the other side, roughly. And then there's 20% of people in the middle who are also angry and frustrated, but at least they're still, willing to talk and think about, why people are this way, and trying to understand the whole picture here, all the perceptions. So then the other thing is the climate accord. So I'm not going to say that I know enough about the Paris Accord to say that it was a great agreement or anything. I do know, and I feel very confident in the fact that we are affecting our climate. And I've used this analogy many times with this example. There's roughly 8 times the number of people on the planet as there were just 200 years ago. And, 200 in just 200 years, 8 times the number of people. So just imagine wherever you are, there's 8 times the number of people. So in my home, we normally have 3 people living here. So just imagine what the environment would be like if we had 24. Okay, would the environment be different? Yes. And the level of CO2 is solidly twice what it has been historically, and rising. And we know as a fact that the CO2 levels that helps hold the sun's energy in our atmosphere. And that's a known fact, and so it's twice what it's been. And it's taken us 100 years or whatever of industrial expansion and stuff to get us here. So in my particular view, it's not enough just to even cut back or kind of switch to alternate energy sources. We're probably going to have to be proactive and remove CO2 from the atmosphere, and sequester it is the term that they use. But the best way to actually sequester it would seem like there are these relatively new technologies. You can pull it out of the atmosphere and convert it back into a fossil fuel. Also kind of a synthetic oil or synthetic fuel. And so then we could get into CO2 recycling. And yes, it won't be as cheap as drilling a hole and sucking it out of a hole and doing a little bit of processing. But, as a fraction of the overall fossil fuel cycle, it probably wouldn't increase costs that much to withdraw a tremendous amount of the CO2, and also hopefully do other things like reestablish or reforest different areas around the world, to help us use plants to reduce the CO2. But climate change, folks, it's real, and it just logically makes sense that it's real, and the CO2 level is definitely twice, and we know that it definitely helps hold energy in the atmosphere, and we know that there's 8 times the number of people than there used to be just 200 years ago. It just all adds up. Okay, so if you were on a jury and you were trying to decide this beyond a reasonable doubt, you would say beyond a reasonable doubt, climate change is occurring. And then what should we do about it? Well, again, Paris Accord, maybe not the best thing, but it was, helping. And maybe it should be greatly expanded or more aggressively pursued, or some alternative that will get the CO2 out of the atmosphere faster and better is a better alternative. But anyway, those are the 2 things I want to talk about tonight. Please try to put anger aside and be civil to each other. Listen to each other. Try to understand the perspective of other people and calmly share your perspective. Okay? Respect, calm, perspective. And then climate change, we've got to move forward and do some things. And whether the Paris Accord or not is the best idea, again, don't know, probably not. probably even more aggressive actions. But in any case, that's the show for today. So my 10 minutes are up. For the Pro and Con Show, Michael James Ott. Bye for now.